What's the word, YouTube? It's your boy Big Will. We're back. Another episode of Life After Prison TV. Come on the inside. Hit that like and subscribe button. You can leave a comment. You can hit the notification bell. So if you do get my message or you see some past videos you might like, when I record, you'll be notified. But you know what it is. Come on inside and follow me. What's the word, people? Big Will here. This video is a little message here. So, I happened to watch a video this morning from Soft White Underbelly, and it was called Percocet, fentanyl. The guy's name was Pretty, I believe. He's from Massachusetts. He's originally from Cape Verde Islands, but he lived in Massachusetts throughout most of his years, Boston, the Brockton area. And I live in Massachusetts, right? And I got his message, and it hit home, because it's about being addicted to opiates and shit. And most of you, or some of you, let me put it that way, who have followed me in the past or have seen me from the beginning, I'm very open, right? Before I went to prison, a couple times, but before I went in, I was a drug addict. I was a drug dealer. I sold heroin for many years. Several raids, a couple of overdoses, a lot of trouble, you know what I mean, due to being addicted to drugs. People always say it's all, it started out with the pills, and a lot of them use that as a escape, I guess, as a way to say that, hadn't I started with a pulled tooth and was given Vicodins, hadn't I started with a broken bone and was given OxyContin, I wouldn't be an addict today. And that may be true for a lot of people. But the fact is, a lot of people just used opiates because inside of us, some of us are addicted people. We have that addiction mentality, right? And it's not just about drugs, right? People always say, oh, if you're a drug addict or you're an alcoholic, you're an addict. There's many, many, many kinds of addictions out there. Alcohol, sex, stealing, porn, you name it. And there's many different kinds of addiction, okay? Could be anything. People get addicted to scratching themselves, picking their skin. They gotta be, their clothes gotta be perfect. There's many kind of addictions. So for you to say that it's drugs, it's not. It's the addiction. It's the personality that's inside of you, right? With that being said, I had a hernia back in 2001, maybe 2000. Might have even been early in 1999. I had a hernia operation, and I was given OxyContin. After the operation, I had to kick OxyContin, right? But I didn't know what addiction and withdrawals were, because I was never addicted to opiates before, right? I drank and I smoked weed like any other teen, and not like all teens, but like any other teen, right? I drank and I smoked weed and I partied, right? I grew up in the projects. And for many years of my life, growing up, I didn't like the drug addicts, okay? Drug addicts around my house. I didn't like them around my children. For the simple fact that I know that most, 99% of drug addicts, will do anything to get the money for their fix when you're sick. Unless you've been addicted to opiates, you don't know the physical feelings that you get due to withdrawals. There's other addictions, alcohol. People get the shakes, right? They got to do anything to get that drink. But alcohol, you can get a bottle of wine for $2, cheap wine, you know. But when you're addicted to opiates, it's illegal, right? It's hard to get. And hard to get meaning it's illegal. You can't just go into any store and get it. You got to wait until the deal is up at a certain time, and you got to wait until you got to have a certain amount of money, and you can't owe the dealer from the day before because tomorrow he's not going to give it to you, and you know, people can't afford $30, $40, $50 a day when you have no job and you're not a functioning addict, and you end up homeless, and you lose things. You lose things in the process of being addicted, right? You lose trust in people. You lose relationships. You lose people, friends, people who have died from drugs. You lose things. And the last thing that you lose is your dignity, is what I think, right? Before you lose your life. And by losing your life, I don't mean just death. Lose your life. Your daily living. Lose your family. Lose connection with your children or your wife, your family. Most people always have their mother to count on. When you go to jail, mom's is there for you. When you're homeless, moms will try to help you as much as she can, but she's not going to let you come into her house and steal and take everything she's got as well. So being addicted is one of the worst things you can go through. Okay? With that being said, today's drugs, they're not like drugs that used to be years ago. When you were going to buy heroin, you were buying heroin. When you were going to buy Percocets, you were buying Percocets. When you were going to buy cocaine, or crack, or meth, or weed, that's what you were buying. Today you're buying all of that with fentanyl mixed into it. And people add fentanyl in because they think they get addicted quick. And they're going to like the high. And they're going to come back. Because most dealers, although some are sympathetic and they have some emotional or personal morals, most of them don't care or think if you're going to overdose and die. They don't think of the consequences. They don't think of the turmoil that your family's going through for being dead, right? And it's so easy to die off of fentanyl. I implore people, and it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. If you can get to a detox, get to a detox. That'll be a first step. If you need methadone, take the methadone. If you need Suboxone, take the Suboxone. You're not going to overdose on them things. They're legal. People are more apt to help you when they see you helping yourself. It's crazy to think the things that we lose or give away for instant gratification. For instant gratification. You don't think about your children. You don't think about family, how they're feeling, what you're doing to them. The worry. The sickness that family goes through, worrying about what you're doing when you have no worries. And listen, I don't knock nobody, because I was there. I was there every day. It's just a message, man. If no one has ever told you this, and if you ain't got the audacity, the self-love to tell yourself this, you are worth it. You are worth it. You were put here on this earth for a reason. And that reason's not to be an addict. That wasn't what God put you here for. And you lose sight of that. And you think, what am I here for? To be an addict? But before you was an addict, you was a baseball player. Or you was a keyboardist. You was a musician. Don't think that it takes anybody special not to be an addict. Because there's doctors who save people's lives but are killing themselves as an addict. There are police officers who are saving people's lives when they're not doing the wrong thing, because there are a lot of bad cops out there, but there are police officers and judges and doctors and lawyers and pastors, and addiction comes for everybody and anybody who wants to mess with it. Some people, their closest relationship is their addiction. Listen, God loves you. I love you. You're a person. You're somebody. You're a son, a daughter, an uncle, a father, a mother, a sister, a brother, a nephew, a cousin, an uncle, an aunt. You're somebody. You're a person. And for that alone, you're worth it. You're worth it. Get yourself help. In the New England area, they have STAR. They have AdCare. AdCare, I praise AdCare. AdCare worked for me when I wanted it to work. And although it took me to do 30 months in jail without no drugs, and when I say without no drugs, don't get me wrong, there was drugs in jail. But they just weren't there on a daily basis. You know, so it's not worth for you to go in and get drugs off somebody for 2 weeks and owe them everything in your canteen box, or have your family sending money to get addicted, knowing that it's not going to be in there for another 2 weeks, a month. And then you got to go do withdrawals, and then do it all again, and then go. So unless you're a lifer, unless you have nothing else to look forward to and not get out of jail, maybe you want to use that for an escape. But do you want to keep going through the pains of withdrawal? I don't think so. Because if you did, you would go through them the first time and not do it again. I'd be lying if I told you that when I was an addict, I didn't like the feeling of the escape. I didn't like the feeling of the drugs. With that being said, I didn't choose to become an addict. I told you I was totally against addicts. I was always worried about them breaking into my house or stealing my car, or so be it what they're going to do. Hold me up, or I didn't like it. I was the type of person, if I seen you and I knew you was an addict and you lived around me, because I grew up in the projects, right? So the people that I knew in the projects and stuff, if I knew you was an addict, I would break your fingers and break your nose at the same time. This way you couldn't shoot or snort. Don't get me wrong, you can always have somebody do it for you, inject it for you. There's many ways you can smoke it. It's not the issue. It was just my mentality. I thought they were beneath life. I really did. Until I realized that I'm an addict. And the way I looked at people, or the way people looking at me. With that being said, people, there's two different people who look at you, and because you get high every day, because you're an addict, they'll call you a junkie. And a junkie is the type that will steal from people, break into a store, rob a store, whatever. Okay? Put someone else through misery just so you can get high. That's a junkie. A junkie is when you look at your son in his eyes and say, I love you. And when he turns around to go play, you take his Xbox and you go sell it. That's a junkie. A junkie is when the rent's due at the beginning of the month and you tell your wife, give me the money, I'll go get the money order, or I'll give it to the landlord, or I'll go pay the mortgage. And you spend the money and your family's homeless. That's a junkie. An addict is someone who is addicted to some form of something. It doesn't even have to be material. Like I said, it could be mental. You could have a mental addiction in your head to porn, to the idea of an addiction is something that consumes your total being on a daily basis. People are addicted to work. People are addicted to working. So do you call him a junkie? No. See what I'm saying? There's a difference between a junkie and an addict. But because you're addicted to drugs, people say he's a junkie. No, he's not. No, she's not. They just have an addiction and they have trouble getting it under control. I told you I did Oxycontins, but I didn't become an addict then. I was on benzos because I was a partier. I like taking benzos. I like the feeling of the downers, the relax, the letting it go. I was never a big fan of speed, cocaine, meth. I didn't like that speed. My head can't take that. Right? It gets me nervous. I think I can feel my heart beating and I'm going to have a heart attack. So I was a downer, right? But somebody took advantage of me because they were an addict. daily, and I wasn't. So when I was under the influence of benzos, and I was drinking, and I was a little incoherent, we'll put it that way, someone took it upon themselves, two guys, two family members, to feed me opiates. And from that day on, I was hooked. I was hooked for two reasons. Because I liked downers, and I liked opiates the way they felt. That release. When them endorphins release, I liked it, right? And that's why I could always tell somebody, I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't like it. Do I like the feeling of opiates today? Probably. But are they worth the feeling of hate and misery and destruction and loss? And it's not worth it. In jail and overdose in my life, it's not worth it. God rest his soul. I lost two brothers to addiction. My baby brother was 17 years old, first time he ever tried heroin. And he overdosed and died. And he could have been saved. But Narcan wasn't like it was everywhere else. It's not readily available like it is today. It wasn't. So his friend just watched him die because he didn't know what to do. And left him there and died. Didn't call an ambulance. Didn't try to save him. Then my brother, my other brother. See, my father had 4 boys. 1, 2, 3, 4 boys my father had, and 1 girl. But my mother had 3 boys. 2 of them from my father, me and my brother. So my younger brother from my father, he overdosed. My second younger brother, he's still living, my brother Dan. My sister, she passed away from, she had pneumonia and all her organs shut down. God rest her soul, Heather, I miss you. But my brother Joe, he was who I grew up with. We were best friends, but we were enemies. We weren't enemies. We were best friends, but there's a lot of envy there, right? But anyways, my brother, his wife, accidentally overdosed. And my brother was an addict. My brother was actually the one who got me started on opiates. Four years after my sister-in-law overdosed, my brother overdosed. And 2 years after he overdosed, his son, my nephew, overdosed. And my nephew was totally against drugs. But he took something that, how many of you take them out there? Even addicts. They take a fake Percocet pill that these people are pressing in their basement. And he overdosed and died. 25 years old. A whole family, a whole bloodline. My brother, his wife, and his son overdosed. God rest their souls. Addiction and death have no color. They're not, they will take anybody. They're not prejudiced to nobody. They will take anybody. So you can buy a Percocet from somebody that has been made. You can buy 2 of them. And you could take one and it'll be totally perfect. and you take the next one and you die. Why? Because they're made in a cellar. They're not like they're made in a laboratory. They're not made by Pfizer. They're not measured out so you get the lethal dose. Right? That's not going to kill you. It's going to take care of your problem. You're making pills, and you got a pile of drugs there, and you got one pill that's got all cut and just a little bit of drug in it. It's not going to bother you. And the next one's all drug and no cut, and it kills you. People you can't trust you out there in the streets. And again, I say this, they're putting it in cocaine. Cocaine's a speed. Fentanyl is a downer. It's an opiate. Why do they mix it? Because they don't care. They're putting fentanyl into water and they're spraying it on weed. People are going for drug tests and they're coming up with drugs that they never even heard. Now they're putting xylazine, tranquilizer, inside of drugs. And you only do that for what? To kill people. That's the only thing you're doing it for. I see no other reason but to kill somebody. To put an animal tranquilizer inside of a drug that humans are consuming. I don't know. I don't get it. But, I mean, listen, again, credit the Soft White Underbelly for making that video. Pretty is the guy's name. I don't know his real name. I commend you for being clean in your path and your journey and telling your story. And it just made me realize, and this world is getting worse. So for all you out there, if somebody happens to see this, a family member of yours sees this, try and get to a detox. Make that first step. Pick up that phone. And when you pick it up, instead of calling the dealer that could end your life, call the detox that's going to save your life. And with that, it's your boy Big Will, Life After Prison TV. Hope you get the message. God bless you and peace. Be safe.